Hello, Starship Tempest fans. Are you an artist or make a product that you'd like to get out into the universe? We love supporting artists and small businesses, and Lieutenant Perro is ready to broadcast on all channels. Your ad can go right here in front of one of our episodes. Just reach out to us on social media under the handle Starship Tempest, or you can email us at starshiptempest@gmail.com to find out more. Our hailing frequencies are open.
Leave meeting.
He left the meeting. Oh no!
It was only a it was only a question of which one of us would have the balls to actually do it.
Oh, it's good.
All right.
And I'm back.
That was good. That was good.
All right.
I say we keep it.
So, we are recording then, yes?
Yes, we are. We're hot.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if me leaving would actually cause a problem.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, welcome everybody. We have now concluded all of the Kobayashi Maru sessions that are going to be released.
To say greetings.
You are supposed to say greetings. That's what Brian's rule is. That's the one rule he has.
I haven't done that for any of them yet.
Yeah,
so.
he hasn't.
I didn't know that was a rule.
No, it's not. It's just something Brian
It's
says.
not. It's just what I would use. It's what I would say on Down in Front. So I pulled it over. For
Greetings,
here.
everybody.
So thanks everybody for showing up today. We have
Greetings!
finished doing all of the Maru sessions. We released them. We had, I think, each of the crew did one, as well as I think 4 or 5 patrons played out. And so we've had a great time going through all of these random, super high concept sci-fi episodes. We actually had 2 patrons who did episodes that, unfortunately, their recordings did not work out properly. One got corrupted when I was trying to download from Zoom. One Zoom just crashed and completely lost everything.
Oh, no.
So I will tell some fun stories with those as we go on. But I wanted to do a little debrief. I figured it's sort of the last time we're going to get together and chat before the second half of Season 3 starts dropping. So I figured we can do a chance to sort of debrief. Tell me what you thought of this particular scenario. It was a little more weird than the last one. And I can tell you some stories of the people who unfortunately didn't get their episodes up. So what'd you all think?
Well, why don't you tell us about the people who didn't?
Sure.
Were unfortunately lost to the
Lost to the
mischief
ether
gods.
of Zoom.
Yeah.
So we had 2. Thomas goes by T West. He was actually the first patron that did it. And so I got to do the first one, which is fine. I messed up a couple times on there personally. So I went through it, and you recall how I was doing the time jumps each time.
Yeah.
For his specifically, I was not calling out the amount of years each time. I was just listing the days, because I was nervous because it was the first patron. So I was like trying to run through it real quick. And so I was just pulling out the days, which meant we were getting to like 22,000 days, which unless you actually hear that in years, you don't ever make that conversion in your brain.
Yeah.
So we actually got really far. Like he also like at one point was just like, okay, I'm determined to keep scanning. So I'm just going to do the scanning. At that point we had locked down all the systems. And so all he could do was scan and try to break back into the holodeck. So I'll start with the way this started. Typical starting for TOS went the same way as everybody else. Methodical scan to start with, just doing that stuff. Visited stowaways. His character believed he was an Andorian and was very insistent on getting the rest of the crew to enjoy Andorian blues and Klingon opera. So was just constantly trying to get people to go on board. Opened up a comedy club in the holodeck.
Oh, good.
Yeah, called Deliveries in the Rear. Started adding also pastor. So that's, just to be clear.
Perfect.
Started an avant-garde theater, started taking Zumba classes. At some point, took over all of the holodecks on the ship to run his theater, comedy club, and then just a load of Zumba classes for the entire crew. Did the thing that I was surprised that so many people started doing of wanting to tell everybody how good at scanning they were. That was a common theme among a lot of the people that played, and was like, I want to start telling people about how good I'm doing at this scanning thing, and so started sending pop-up notifications to the crew to tell them how good he was doing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, just continually running through. Let's see. Yeah, I think all the systems started getting locked out around year 90. But again, since I wasn't listing the years, I was just continuing to give days. he was like, okay, well, I can't do anything besides scan and break back into the holodeck because he got very invested in making sure the crew's morale was good. So he was like, well, if they can't go to my
Interesting.
if they can't go to my comedy club, they're not gonna, it's not gonna be good team dynamics, good team cohesion. So so he was like, so you just kept scanning, and then finally, I think we hit 80 something thousand days or some nonsense like that, and he was like, wait, how long is that? That's like decades, right? And I was like, oh, that's actually 360 years, and he was like, oh, and then went into it. That was when the insistence of talking to the captain and chief engineer really took over all of the thing. And that's like, it always happens, right? They're like, I need to go talk to this person now, and they know something's wrong, and it's like, okay, we're done doing the time jumps now because we're just gonna role play this until you get it.
Yeah.
And like, we role played with the captain for a while, and then I made clear that they were a program, and TOS was like, kept playing it along like he was okay, I get it, but now I'm worried about it, and started panicking, and was like, started fighting the captain and arguing, be like, no, I'm an Andorian. And I was like, nope, you're totally a program. And he's like, I know that, but I don't want to believe it. I kind of want to escape. Can I take over the ship and run, or can I get into a shuttle and go? And I was like,
Whoa!
so we tried playing out that a little bit and got a little somewhere. Finally, I was able, as the captain, was able to talk him down, and he agreed to go into therapy to deal with his existential crisis of gaining sentience. So,
Sentient computer therapy. I love it.
Aw.
it was a good time. So yeah, that was the first one I hit the end on Zoom, and it did the thing where it's like converting, and it sits there for a while, and then it like, after sitting for a while, got about halfway, and then just like stopped and did not do anything else again. And I was like, okay. So, but it was a good one by TOS, so that was fun.
Awesome.
The other one that did not record was Tim Drake. They came on, and he again started normally. Everybody starts by just scanning the nebula meticulously or carefully in some way, shape, or form. Did a lot of reading. Jogging around the ship was another one I did not anticipate a lot of people to want to do, but fitness stuff in the holodeck I was ready for, but people were like, I want to run through the ship's halls. And I was like, okay, I guess you do that then. Also opened up a bar on the holodeck named the Bloody L, because
Oh, okay.
yeah, because their favorite character is Eel, because of course.
Oh.
So yeah, that was the Bloody L, and it was designed as a sort of like back alley London pub. Became a gaming pub for everybody. Also did a bunch of tabletop gaming and LARPing there. Let's see, wanted to start a theater troupe, asked Colt to be in a play. Unfortunately, Colt never responded. Very sad. So if I had gotten it recorded, there's no clop sounds that I could have added into there. So he was one of the only people that actually asked permission to use the deflector dish before trying to utilize it to scan. So I thought that was very fun.
How did you handle that?
Hmm?
How did you?
Sent an email and never got a reply. That was the easy go-to, and it was like, I want to ask somebody for something. And like, thematically it works, right? You send a message and like, you think a year has passed, but for them, they didn't respond to an email for 2 hours. So
Right.
Hey,
Yeah. Right.
this was also fairly early on. Became very enthralled in joining Captain Ripley's Krav Maga class. And so became the best Krav Maga person on the ship, which is not surprising. I think it was around the 11-year mark is when they were like, something feels wrong here. And we got through one more session. We got to 22 years, and they were like, okay, about this though. And then we went down that rabbit hole. We trying to get him there, it was weird. We was trying to like, he was looking into it and was very stuck on like, he started thinking about Moriarty and started thinking about like time again. Matt, I think you had the one where you were thinking that you were like an alien that was in a different time space of some sort, and so he kind of went down that.
Oh, that's
He started doing tons of research and trying to like find something similar to this in the databanks to relate it to. So we ended up like making up a conspiracy theory about how the Scotty that we meet in Relics is actually a copy and isn't really Scotty.
Oh.
A copy because of the transporter, that whole thing.
Yeah,
Like,
so it became
the
this
transporter
conspiracy.
actually kills you and just makes a
Makes
copy
a
of
new
you.
one.
Yeah,
every
it
time
was
you-
the conspiracy theory about how that was covered up and stuff, and like that was a result of that thing, and so it wasn't really Scotty that we meet in TNG. But that got like that sort of working through that process. He was like, yeah, but like Scotty didn't realize time was passing because he was in the computer system,
Yeah.
and that was the trigger. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. And then, yeah, immediately jumped to Moriarty and how Moriarty lived his entire life in a cube on someone's desk. And then that was I think the only one that I was like, he was like, I want to do a scan on myself. I was like, okay, you're gonna do a self-diagnostic. And as soon as I said that, he was like, wait a second. So it was the one time that I dropped that one clue in there and like immediately was like, wait.
Yeah.
I get it. So yeah, Tim was actually the second fastest person to figure it out after Tara.
So that was going to be my next question. Out of everybody, who got there the fastest?
Tara got there the fastest, and Tim got there the fastest of the patrons.
And
Jessica Fletcher, yo.
I presume I brought up the caboose in terms of time.
Yes, I think so.
Like I was.
You took a long.
Matt. So Matt, I think, got further into this scenario itself. I think Matt and TOS were the furthest in terms of like the year's jumps, the number of jumps.
Oh yeah.
But like TOS went through, I think, 3 jumps where he was just like, I can't do anything besides scan and take over the holodeck if I can get access to that again. So I'm just going to do that. So we did like 3 jumps in a matter of like 5 minutes because he couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
So we got really far along, and Matt got very far along as well. But Ryan's the one that took the longest simply because there were lots of twists and turns in that particular one. So
what was so different about his compared to everybody else's?
Ryan's the one that made babies, that had a child.
Yeah. I decided.
Go on.
Decided before I knew I was a computer system, I decided I'd be very clever and create a computer system to help me analyze the. Basically, I wanted to create. How did I phrase it? I forget.
You said you wanted to make an AI to help you go through the
Yes.
scanning data faster.
Yeah, I wanted to develop an AI to help me process and chew on the data faster, so that it could do most of the work. And
so there was definitely a solid 5 minutes worth of time added onto Ryan's where I was just floundering trying to figure out how the hell to handle that situation. which is just filler because I was like, I need to buy some time to figure this out.
I also feel, for mine personally, I don't know if this was more annoying from your side, so I'd like to get your take on it, Travis, after the fact. As a player, I was in no big rush to figure out my own existence. I was just having a I was just like, all right, now I wasn't problem solving. I'm not a problem solver. Like I'm not a mystery solver. So I didn't pursue that. I wasn't trying to get to the bottom of it. I recognized the passage of time, and I just was like, all right, fine.
Yeah, it was also, I think, let's see, I did Brian's first, and Brian's was a little wonky because I did not come up with that metaphor about the amount of beach sand that you were trying to catalog. Like his is just purely the number of like this tiny percentage, and it was like, first of all, that just got clunky to say at each time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, it's tough to visualize that or conceptualize that tiny of a number. So we got through there. The entire exercise, because me and Brian were talking about this afterwards. I don't know if it even made the episode, but we were just sort of chit-chatting offline about it, and it was like the big challenge for me as a game master in this particular scenario was to balance that I need to frustrate the player enough to make them wonder what's happening and start to look deeper at it, but not so frustrating that it's not fun to play. And I think
it's very much like a thing that I think we have encountered and that I've had to like get better at in the main campaign, where it's like, you guys have got to notice that some things don't make sense, but
I can't say this doesn't make sense.
You can't say this doesn't make sense, and also, but like, there still has to be some kind of trust or faith that the story that the GM has put together makes sense, right? So like when you go, hey, wait a second, this doesn't make sense, your brain doesn't immediately go to, oh, the GM fucked up. Your brain goes to, oh, that's a clue that I should focus in on. Yeah.
And like that makes it a little easier for us because we're all friends, right? But like the patrons, a couple of them had played Maru with me once before, so like they had a little leg up on that front. But the people who hadn't done it before very much were like, I don't know what Travis is like as a GM. Like he may just suck at this. Like I might just be frustrated because he's bad. Totally valid.
And that was also part of like, because I was the first and ours was sort of the prototype test flight version of it, and so there was a little bit of an aspect of like knowing that there was some kind of mystery in the first place, or not. I don't even say mystery is too strong a word, but like because the premise as you presented it at first is just like, you're a brand new ensign and this is a day in the life, right? And so it's like it's just knowing on some kind of meta level that there are extra layers beneath there. And I remember, I think I said this in the like our post chat thing of like, it definitely in the middle of hours, I'm thinking in my head like, oh boy, Travis, I don't know if this is gonna work as a scenario. There's just not a lot going on here.
I do know that did make it into your episode. That is at the very end.
Yeah.
Because immediately after you said that, I was like, but now my brain is fried.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then once it actually got to the end and like, realized what the actual nature of everything was, like, yeah, my brain was absolutely melted after the fact.
Yeah.
So
that
Go
was
ahead.
helpful on that front, and also like that was the part of me that was like, oh, I was a little worried about that when we were talking about it, and then I was like, but wait a minute, that's only going to exist to the listener for one episode. After
Yeah.
that, the listener's in the know, so they're more from my perspective than a generic
That's true.
listener
That's a-
perspective.
that's
So
a
I was
good
like,
point.
that might help, at least from the listener side of things, of like, I'm picking up, because they're going to pick up all the clues, right? Like they're going to be listening
Mhm.
and they're going to know the end. So every time they're going to be like, oh, he said that thing.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I feel a little better in the sense that like someone can listen to this and not be bored out of their mind for the first 40 minutes where everybody's just doing generic stuff over and over again.
Which I think is, not to compliment Travis, because I would never.
No,
but
no.
No.
What I think is really cool about this whole like little series and the fact that like how, if you really think about it, what you did was you made this little like Agatha Christie mystery thing,
Yeah.
and then like, but still figured out a way to present it to the audience multiple times, like the same mystery
Yeah.
multiple times to the same audience, and still be interesting to for the audience member to go through it differently each time. That's
Totally.
really cool.
Yeah.
it's
I
for you
agree.
too.
It is for you too. Yeah, I thought it's so clever in that, and that like you're like quite an improviser, Travis, because you let each of us walk ourselves into our own path and just the like, all right, so what do you do now? What do you do with your free time? I do this.
No one is expecting that question on a Kobayashi Maru
Right,
either. I think
exactly.
that was the other thing.
What
When
do you do?
I was first trying to come up with it, I was like, what do we do? And then I had this idea and I was like, oh, that sounds super cool. And I was like, this is nothing like what you would expect Kobayashi Maru. And from my side, because I'm, pretentious as hell, was like, oh, this is great. It's sort of undercutting and sort of flipping the script on what the Maru is for people, their expectations of it is going to be. And then I was like, boy, I hope other people find that entertaining.
Well, and like everybody chose differently, right? Like some people chose to do actual things that would be helpful for the ship, or like would go with what an ensign would be doing, and some of us picked really random bullshit and like just
Mine was always the path between who goes, okay, it's my job to scan, therefore almost everything I do is about scanning the nebula and being better at that and doing that thing, versus the people who are like, okay, I scan the nebula, I can do anything? Okay, I'm going to do all this wild stuff on the side that I'm not really going to care other than scanning because you tell me I'm supposed to.
Right.
Like, that disconnect was always fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
also
thought it
a
was
great.
cool. Two of us chose to play Parisi Squares.
Yes.
Funny.
Who did?
I did,
who was the
and
other
who else was it? It wasn't.
It was one of the patrons.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't.
No, I don't think it was Cole.
Oh, I can't tell because I've listened to all of them.
I can't remember
in
who else
rapid
did.
succession while I was editing.
I
like
almost
3
put a message up on the Discord that said we were Parisi Squares brothers, but
you would start a team together.
Oh, that's so fun.
So how does the computer play Parisi Squares? I'll be honest, I haven't been able to listen to all the patron ones, so
Holodeck.
just
Yeah.
That's the
Holodeck.
key reason that why I set it in the time frame it did, because originally the original idea I was like, oh well, I can still set it in our time, and then I was like, no, we need a holodeck. If
You
Yeah,
need a
we need-
holodeck
yeah.
for this. Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Because
Yeah.
if I did not have the holodeck there, I was like, that's gonna fall apart real fast.
And
So.
then for things that I wanted to do that were not in the holodeck, you rolled with it so well. Like first was the jogging thing, which you were like, you go at the speed of light, and I was like, haha, I'm such a fast runner. Wait, am I a fast runner? And then
like,
I said,
literally the speed of light.
and then I said I wanted to feed animals in the arboretum. And Travis was like,
That's true.
you want to feed animals? Okay. So some feeding, like machines appear in like you beamed them into the arboretum, so like food stations for animals.
It was the
Yeah.
best day at the
Yeah.
arboretum for the
Right.
animals.
And I was like,
And the
"Oh."
person and the crew member who manned the arboretum kept uninstalling them because he didn't know where it was coming from.
Oh, I had more of a like, Snow White feeding the deer like in like out of the palm of your hand idea. But
the life we tell ourselves in our own brains.
right.
Oh.
But then his clues are so good because it wasn't anything so blatantly obvious for me that I was like, oh well, I get it. But it was like, okay, in my spare time, I'm gonna study Spanish. And Travis, by the next time, he was like, okay, so you've been studying Spanish and you learned all of it. And I was like, I learned all of Spanish. I'm just
You did that.
Yeah. You're like, yes. And I said, fine, I'm gonna study other languages. Okay, by the next time you have learned all of them. I have learned all of the languages. I'm a person.
It's like I do that in real life, and that's not that easy.
Yeah. So it was, yeah.
I remember
Yeah, and
I was going through and I tried to tie the Kobayashi Maru back to the show. So my character was just
that's right.
was just going through all the historical documents of the Tempest missions and became
Yeah.
obsessed with the Tempest crew.
Oh my gosh.
And like lived the missions like in the holodeck over and over again. That's the only thing he did was just
Yep.
in the holodeck.
Well, it's because you wanted to like get close to Colt, and so you invited Colt to go. That was another sidetrack on top of the making a child, but it's also like you were trying to build a relationship with Colt by having him meet his dead grandmother.
That's right. Right. I wanted to get close to Winnie. It's like
Yeah. Like so, yeah. You just made the Tempest and spent a lot of time in the Tempest. What did we call it? It's the Nines, right?
the nines.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Tempest Bar is the 9s. Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't spend any time in Stowaways. He went to Stowaways, I think, once, and then was like, "Oh, well, I want to just go see my favorite crew." And he's like, "Wait, Winnie's there. Colt, how about you come?" And so the rest of it was just you're always going to the Nines on the holodeck on the Tempest for some reason
I was
to
totally
hang
trying
out.
to pick up Colt the whole time.
Yeah, totally.
Ryan, were you trying to garner secrets about the actual like future of the Tempest campaign?
Oh, he
Even
knows
though
them. He
it
knows
was-
them all.
The whole
Even though it was Travis running
Yes.
this,
and he
learned all
gave
of
me
it.
all of the
he
spoilers.
told you how the whole thing ends.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mystery solved. Yeah. So it was a fun time. I was nervous about it, but I think it turned out solid.
Oh yeah.
And now go ahead.
So what was the biggest like what was the biggest oh shit moments curveball that really made your blood run cold in terms of how the hell
I think it
Do
was
I
when
deal
your
with
face
that?
appeared on the Zoom.
Oh,
Isn't that what you
that's
told me,
not
Travis?
Hey yo.
Oh, you look sad.
Brian's face.
Actually hurt his feelings on that one. Let's see, the toughest curveball.
Don't worry, silence is golden.
Yeah, it's great. I'm
Great for a
contemplating.
podcast.
It's true. So I think there were a couple. One was multiple people. Brian, you were the first one who did this, and so multiple people ended up doing this. It was the first the going to the gym thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would imagine it'd be anything like you're talking about, like running around the ship, like anything
Yeah.
that was physical that you couldn't explain away with a holodeck.
Right.
Yeah, and so and it's one thing if you do it like once, like I want to go talk to this person. Okay, you can send them a message, and generally that worked enough to for people's brains to sort of move past that moment. Be like, I want to go talk to this person. In their brain, they're thinking, I want to communicate with this person. So if I say you sent them an email or you call them on comms, they're like, I achieved the thing that I was actually trying to do, even though I didn't go physically to talk to them. But it was the ones of Ryan wanted to go to the gym regularly. So it wasn't until he started going to the gym on the Tempest in the holodeck with Rue that it became easy to sort of navigate that.
I did so many squats with Rue.
So yeah, the physical, it's one of those things that I knew it would be a problem, but you don't know what the exact problem that's going to manifest in until you're doing it. So I think that was probably one of the tougher co-balls. The other one was when you get to the end of once any of the players figure out something's off, right? They're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then, we're all Trekkies. Everybody starts running through what the possibilities could be. What Trek thing have I seen that this might be a thing of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like I think like Matt had his thing where he thought he was an alien that like we had picked up from the nebula who like experienced time differently, and started asking questions.
That was smart.
It was smart.
It was
super
wrong,
cool.
but it was smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have changed it for the rest of them.
Should have.
So no, but it's like you're on to the idea that something's off, and you're asking questions tailored to like, I think it might be this, so I'm trying to ask questions that will give me that specific answer.
Yeah.
And it's like I have to give you and like an alien that experiences time at a different rate than the rest of the crew is pretty close. Like it's not that far removed in terms of like the concept of what you're doing. So it's like, how do I answer this question? Where if I give you like an easy answer, like yes, this is yes, this time difference is something that you experience and not the rest of them. That tells you that you're still on the right track, but it's not the actual thing you think it is. And like, it means that I have to try and figure out what you think it is first, and then figure out how to give you an answer that both says you're kind of right, but not exactly right without straight up saying that.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of those instances where it was like I think part of the whole going into the conspiracy theory and getting to Scotty living in a transporter for 100 years and not realizing that much time, like that got born out of that, because it's like he was asking questions that it was like, something's up,
Close.
and I'm not exactly sure what you think this is, but you're asking questions that I can't directly answer, but need you to keep going down a specific line of questioning along those lines. So like that was the trickier of the two. The you want to go to the gym, it's like, okay, how do I just word this in a way that answers the question you're trying to ask without just saying you can't physically go to a gym right now.
Yeah.
So.
That's really interesting, because it's like there's this whole thing about the scientific method in general is the idea of falsifiability, right? So it's like our natural inclination as humans and our thought processes is, if you start to have an idea about like what it might be, you start looking for things to confirm that answer. Like you start looking for evidence to support what your hypothesis is or whatever. But that's actually backwards from how you should do it, which is once you have your hypothesis, you should try to disprove your own hypothesis.
Interesting.
And like, if you try as hard as you can to do that and fail, then maybe you have the right answer, right? But like trying to prove that you have the right answer just straight line is like, we're actually really good at fooling ourselves that way.
Yeah.
And that's partly why humans are crazy. But like,
partly.
But like that's a really interesting parallel in that sense of like, as a game master, how do you encourage somebody to go down that path if they're starting to zero in on something on a theory, but it's not the right theory, but then they're not trying to falsify it for themselves, they're trying to support it for themselves. That's, my brain's melting again.
I wouldn't be able to do what you guys do as game masters, because you'd get close and I'd be like, no.
Really? Because I feel like that's exactly what I do.
It's not.
Yes, again.
Tara's gotten better at that. She's gotten a couple sneaky surprises in on.
You're not
on Christmas gifts and
perceives time differently.
So now also so this was the second season of the Marus, right? Like this is the second time I've done that.
Yeah.
One, we had more patrons jump on than in previous years, which was
awesome.
Exciting in of itself.
Yay.
So like part of my brain is like, if we do this the third time, it's going to be even more people.
Yeah.
Which is daunting, but also cool.
And fun.
Now I'm even more excited because we had, I think only one or two people who had, I think maybe only one. Katie, I know, did the first one. I think one other person may have done an earlier one as well. But now at least like the pool of people that have done the Maru is large enough that it's likely that if I do this third time, I plan to. I'm just saying if, because I won't make commitments. But when I do a third season of this, there's likely repeat engagement again, right? Like if someone is still a patron and wants to do it, of course we're going to have them on again and do it again.
Awesome.
But now I have done the first Maru, which was a very stereotypical, you jump on the Maru and immediately are being attacked by way more Klingons than you could ever possibly win. I did one Maru session, the experimental version on the first one mission, which was the time loop, and now I've done this one, which is this high-minded, like a mystery that you don't realize is a mystery. So whatever I do on the third one, whoever's going in, there's no expectations anymore.
Yeah. So all of that being said, what is going to be the big twist for the next one?
Right.
Yeah.
Tara, you're looking. Tara, the first one, if you remember the very first one, I did a couple really short scenarios where you get a distress signal and you go check it.
Did 2 in 1.
And then I did the experimental version where you have a pain in your leg and then you time jump backwards.
I cut my leg off.
You did. You were the first one to do that and to figure that out.
The only one to solve it. We know, Tara, you're good
Also,
at this.
Fun side story on that.
You're very smart. Now shut up.
Yeah, very good.
Fun side story to the first Maru, actually. Matt's cousin Jessica messaged me on Facebook like a month ago and was finally catching up on Tempest and finally got to the Maru sessions. And she texted me on Facebook and was like, hey, so I'm just starting the Maru sessions. Like, I just had this idea and I'm not far into them, but I want to know if anybody did it. Did anybody just cut off their leg? And I was like, wait for it. And then I think it was the next day, she texted and was like, I knew Tara would do that. So...
Did she
the people know us.
Did she was she
Yeah.
specific?
It's in the leg.
That specific, yeah.
That's right.
There's a pain in
The pain was in the leg. That's right.
So yeah, so now it's like I've done several different versions of this, which means when I do the third one, whoever signs up, it's like there is no more expectation, because the expectations of this one where it's going to be a typical the first one type of thing, and now it's like now you go in and you have no idea what the hell I'm about to throw at you. So I think that's going to be fun in of itself. So
it's going to be like a third Knives Out movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, God.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
This will probably
Anyway.
be the one that I'm totally stumped on, and it takes way too long. And Tara was
I'm gonna design it specifically to make it hard for Tara.
Oh God!
It's going to be questions about classes of
Ship design.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be a starship design tutorial.
Starship design and very specific Star Trek jargon
No.
you have to know in order to succeed.
But cool, yeah. So it sounds like everybody had a good time. It was a wild time doing that thing. So
It was awesome.
I really enjoyed it.
The work,
so.
I will say my favorite thing is listening to them all again
Yeah.
and picking out how you blatantly tell everyone the exact answer the entire time. Of course they're a computer. That's what it means. And of course it is. That's why Travis is saying that.
Oh, I can't remember.
Such a jerk.
I can't remember. I can't remember who it was. Again, I've listened to all of these and edited all of these in the span of 3 weeks, and so they all kind of have blended together. But someone right at the beginning of the episode was like, "Oh, whatever, we're all living in a simulation anyway."
Yeah.
And I was like, one, I can't react to that in the moment, and two, then when I was editing it, I was like, do I want to do a quick cut in and be like, I did not actually tell them the scenario beforehand? It really sounded like they just walked in knowing the end. So.
I also want to say that I think Katie wins the Quentin Tarantino award for amount of F-bombs dropped
Oh, yeah.
in an episode of Tempest.
Yeah. It was a good time.
I have to listen to that.
We're just gonna count it as our blue
It's
episode.
incredible.
Blue episode.
Yeah, it was a lot of time. It was a lot of fun.
I haven't listened to Katie's. I've only hung out with
You're
Katie
gonna
a little
now.
bit, but I can't imagine her being a
bomb dropper?
person like a
sailor?
sailor. Yeah,
Sailor.
a sailor.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Oh, good.
Yeah, it's incredible.
The big
It's a good time.
Lebowski.
Awesome. Well, again,
So, okay.
thank you for your hard work on it, Travis, because
Yeah.
they're awesome, they're fun, and the patrons love them, and we can tell how much work it takes to
Yeah.
execute.
Yeah.
Sometime I'll actually run a real game as opposed to just one shots. But
Oh.
this is at this point, I've done enough of these that I feel confident to actually be a GM of a full game now. Whereas I was definitely not before I started this, and now I'm like, okay, I could do a multi-session.
Hear that, Brian?
thing.
He's coming for your job.
I heard that
I-
Travis is coming, and I believe hell might be coming with him.
I was just gonna say
Being a
that, so
GM,
now,
yes.
now both Travis and Matt have done one shots, and so
Yeah.
now Ryan and Tara, you guys
I would love
got to
to
do it.
Yeah, I would love to.
We
Yeah,
could-
that would be fun.
We could write something together. That might
Yeah, let me check my schedule, see when we can do that. And, I mean, well, I'll look. I'll have my people call your people, see what we can do.
I'm actually busy that day. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whenever that is.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Nope, doesn't matter.
Basically that specific day.
Yeah, exactly that day.
I'm gonna be busy watching Ryan's hair.
No,
Ryan is bald.
They can't tell.
They don't know.
It's not a visual podcast.
no, your voice, Ryan. I will be honest. Your voice sounds very bald.
Yeah, there's much more
Yeah, you can hear it in the
reverberation
voice.
in my tracks
Yeah.
than anybody
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
Uh,
So another fun thing that we just did, is we just visited Starbase Indy. I'm going to move on from the Maru conversation. We've talked about this enough, and I feel embarrassed enough about the whole thing. So,
don't be embarrassed.
Let's talk more about how good a job Travis did, everybody.
Travis is so good.
No, let's make him feel better. Travis, you suck. You're terrible. Everything you do is
thank
awful.
you.
Make him feel
Yeah,
Travis,
see?
at best, it was adequate.
All of the doubts you have
Real
inside
friends
yourself.
take care of their friends' feelings,
Travis,
whatever those are.
I heart Travis.
I have a pillow that says that.
That's true. I made it.
Lord knows none of us did.
I love how after 15 years, Tara is still just like really trying to like have sincere emotions and connections with the rest of us.
It's closer to 20, dude.
20.
20
Shut your mouth.
All right. See, I was trying to pay Tara a compliment, and then she goes and
Thanks.
says
Correct.
the most emotionally hurtful thing to me that she could.
So a thing that we just did, since
Yes.
this is being recorded on December 3rd, and it's going to
Yes.
release in a couple days.
We just went to Starbase Indy, which is a Star Trek convention in Indianapolis over Thanksgiving weekend.
Some of us went.
Some of us went. 3.
I'd say the B squad went. Yeah. The A team did not go.
Yeah, the captain, the most loved character, and me.
And Travis.
And Travis. And Ryan's beloved.
Ryan's beloved.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the YouTube, Tara, have you checked out the YouTube? We actually have a video up on our YouTube of recent content where we did one of our panels at Starbase Indy.
Yeah, question and answer.
Travis, my dad actually mentioned this to me today in a phone conversation. He laughed so hard.
Awesome.
So he's one of the 11 views we have on that video so far. But when we were introducing ourselves, I introduced me, and then I said, and I'll pass it now to my beloved. And Travis steamrolled over Tara and introduced himself. It was great.
It was hilarious.
It was. Anyway, continue. Set up what we were doing.
Okay.
We were clearly just as full of nonsense in person as we
Right,
were on the podcast.
Totally. So we were there as presenters, as guests, or as celebrities, as it turned
We were
out.
celebrities.
They called us celebrities. They invited us to a mixer at Vic Fontaine's, which was a celebrity mixer. We got there. Travis and I were in line. Ryan was with the kids, and we got there, and the lady seating everybody was like, "So as celebrities, you guys just sit, and then the people will come in and kind of move around you, kind of like speed dating." And we were like, "We're celebrities?
We're celebrities.
Us? Okay."
Pardon?
That word has lost all meaning.
Well, lost all
A
meaning.
weird world.
That was weird, and wonderful. But we were there. We did Star Trek trivia. It was super fun. Travis came up with these Scantron sheets to do the trivia, the grading, much faster with an app than at DragonCon when we did it by hand.
Don't worry, Travis. They were terrible. I can see you getting uncomfortable.
It worked beautifully.
I'm fine.
It worked beautifully, and people liked them so much that they came up afterward and asked if they could keep them as a souvenir, which was very cute. And so we did Star Trek trivia, and then we also did a Q&A panel. And because we didn't know how many people there might be, because it's a small convention,
Very small.
we also asked the patrons to write us some questions and stuff. So I had some questions to pull out of a hat, and we answered a bunch of those.
Do you have the ones that we didn't? I'm just thinking of this off the top of my head. Do you have the ones that we didn't get to?
Somewhere.
Okay. Anyway.
They're hard to get to.
Hard to get
Hard
to.
to get to. That's a
fact. So we put that on YouTube, and the whole panel is there, which is fun. And so we answered live questions and patron questions.
And if anybody from Starbase Indy is listening to this, I will say that I didn't know what to expect going to it. I expected it to be a small con, and it was. But I can genuinely say it was. If I could wrap it up in one word, it would be sincere. Like that con is run by people it's a tight-knit community who runs it, and it's basically them getting together once a year around the holidays to celebrate their favorite fandom. And it feels that from the moment you walk in there.
Very found family feeling.
Very much.
Found family is right. We were talking with some of the people who put it on, and we were like, why Thanksgiving weekend? Because I feel like this could get much bigger if it were not over Thanksgiving. Like people already have plans, or they've already traveled or whatever. And she said basically when it started, like a lot of the people who attend didn't really feel like they could go to their original homes. They didn't feel included there. They didn't feel safe there, or a number of other things. But this group, this community, is a found family, is like somewhere they can be themselves and enjoy their fandom and celebrate being with each other. And so they didn't really care how many people were there. They care about being together and the inclusiveness of it, which is beautiful. And
from a logistic point of view, they said it's also really interesting is that I hadn't thought of this. We all know that Thanksgiving weekend is one of, if not the busiest travel holiday, but it is also not a very big hotel holiday. There's not a lot of hotel space taken up.
Yeah.
So they host that because everybody's at their respective homes, and hotels are very willing to offer, they have space basically available to host things like this.
Yeah.
So that's why another benefit of why they do it over Thanksgiving weekend. And it's just a great convention.
Also, they had so the same people do it at Starbase Indy as well as at Gen Con. They run something called Motley Kids. And it's the Motley Crew, right? It's all activities that kids can drop in and do. And it's all crafts, and like adults could do it too. There's hot glue guns, and there's glitter, and there's rhinestones, and there's paint, and there's stuff. And they had it was like my favorite place ever. But like we had our 3 sons with us, and otherwise they've seen some Star Trek, not all Star Trek. Like they weren't going to be entertained by most of the panels and things that were there. But they got to drop in and like make a flying space station, which was instead of a paper airplane, it was this like tubes and circles to make a space station that flew like a paper airplane.
Yeah, it was really cool.
It was very cool. And like projects like that. And so the boys were like, it's so into it. It was the first time that they ever cosplayed. We did a crossover group costume of Star Trek pirates. And so the boys were really excited. They love Lower Decks, so they did crossovers of Boimler, Rutherford, and then Logan was a tiny little green Kirk. And at one point, Johnny's phaser broke, and he goes marching across the convention.
He's just like leaving us.
He's like leaving. We're like, Johnny, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to Motley Kids to use the hot glue gun to fix my phaser. We're like, what?
And they beamed with pride.
Like, yes, we're like, we're so convention.
As con parents.
Yeah. So.
And the panels were the whole convention. If I was being generous, I'd say 200 people in attendance. It was probably closer to 100. It's real small.
I mean, it's also like, people are coming in and out, right? Like,
correct.
Some people are coming some days and not others, so.
Right.
But the panels we hosted, the trivia was very well attended considering the ratio. There were multiple panels going on, and there was a little bit of a mix-up in the guide as to when and where we were going to be. So, but it was so well appreciated. The 16 people, it was in a small room, too. It wasn't like it was in an appropriately sized room for how many people attended our panels. And the 16 people that attended the panel for trivia, like we heard them talking about how good of a job that they did. They're like, those are some really good questions we overheard people saying. So it was fun. It was just like there was nothing but appreciation going in every different direction from the people at this convention. So I can't recommend it enough. Thank you, Starbase Indy, for having us because it was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And next time, hopefully, we can bring the other 2 people with us.
The other 2 boobs.
Well, you know.
Come on,
it's
Matt.
tough. It's tough on Thanksgiving weekend.
Bring your whole family to Indianapolis, Matt.
My whole family.
Awesome.
So what other exciting things do we have coming up then? Because we've just done this convention, but we did one earlier that sounds like people are going to be hearing some from.
Yeah, Travis, you're still, even though we're not talking about the Maru stuff anymore, you're still responsible for carrying.
That's what we're doing.
So I'll help.
Well, does Matt want to help? He hasn't said much.
Matt can help.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, I'm a great helper.
Yeah, he should talk about it because what we're going to be airing is the panel from Dragon Con that he was in charge of. So you can
I GM'd a one shot and it is spectacular. But I think it's actually pretty fun. It'll be pretty much it'll probably be 45 minutes after it's cut down, I'm assuming. So it'll be a shorter episode.
A whole lot of cutting, so it'll be whatever the original runtime was.
Yeah,
a good hour.
Good hour.
An hour.
But yeah, I look forward to it coming out. Yeah, that's what we have one more
Yeah, we're releasing this.
What are we doing?
We're releasing
This
this.
on Wednesday?
This on this coming week.
Yeah.
And then I guess
the
your one
next
shot
week-
would be the week after, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So I
And
look
then-
forward for it to
so-
come out.
We'll do that, and then we'll release our other Dragon Con panel, our hot takes panel, the week after that, and then I think that takes us up to the release.
yeah,
Resuming release, right?
Correct. So for the general listening public, hello, you're listening to us on December 6th. Thank you for listening.
Or 5th if you're one of our
Or if you're
Patreon
patron, you're listening on the 5th. Next,
www.patreon.com/Starship Tempest.
thank you. Yeah, so we will be releasing Matt's one-shot scenario that he developed specifically for the Dragon Con event. It was
that we played live.
We
Yeah.
played it live. It was the very first time any of us have ever done one of these live, a Starship Tempest episode live. It was the very first time Brian participated as an
As a player.
NPC.
Yeah.
It was the first time Matt GM'd for us. And much like we don't want to give Travis credit, I certainly as hell don't want to give Matt credit.
But it was great.
I wouldn't.
It was a lot of fun. Really
Yeah, it went well.
received, and I'm looking forward to releasing that. So that'll be on December the 13th. The next week after that, or the 12th, depending on if you're a patron or if you are a regular listener, on the 19th and or the 20th, we will be releasing our hot takes panel that we released or that we hosted at Dragon Con. And team, that was one of the most surreal experiences at Dragon Con. So
Yeah.
again, for those who are unaware, this convention is beloved to us particular as a group because we've been attending since 2004
like 20 years,
5.
yeah.
So it's been 2 decades worth of us loving this con, and now to be active participants in it is in and of itself sort of a surreal experience. But that particular day, do you want to tell the story?
Sure. So we came down to the basement level of the huge Atlanta Hilton to get ready for our panel. And we got there and we found people sitting along the wall outside the door.
Which is normal for very
For
well
lots-
attended.
For real panels.
For real.
Yeah, no,
Thank you,
Yeah.
For
Travis.
real
Yeah.
people doing real
Yeah.
things.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, that looks like a line. That's not for us, is it? And everybody was like, I don't know. So I went over and I said, what are you guys in line for? And then they were like, Star Trek hot takes. And I was like, oh, God. So I ran.
She turned into a cartoon character.
Yeah. Oh, and then I ran. I,
There's just a terror-shaped cloud.
I freaked out. And then we turned and we went into the room to go set up. And none other than forever ensign Harry Kim is sitting at the table.
Oh, that's right. Harry Kim was there.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
the table, and I walked up and like introduced myself because I'm a lunatic, and I was like, "We're the next panel in this room. I just wanted to say hello." And he was very gracious and was like, "Oh, okay."
She kicked Harry Kim out of his station.
Whoops. And he was like, "So what's this panel?" And I said, "We're Starship Tempest. We have an actual play podcast, and this one is Star Trek Hot Takes." And he was like, "Oh, cool. Do you guys have a card or something? I'll promote you guys." And I was like, "What's happening?"
Why would we have cards?
The answer was no.
Like,
No, we do not.
A pen? I'm not sure. I don't. At that point, I probably handed him my whole purse. I was like,
Here's my driver's license.
It just seems.
But yeah, so the hot takes were us giving some like maybe some counterintuitive takes of like our favorite of our least favorite ship was one of them, and some various other things, and it was all done in love. We also got some audience participation, and we made sure very early on to be like, this is not a this sucks, this Star Trek thing sucks type of thing. It was always like a I love this thing and maybe not everybody loves it, or this thing gets a lot of hype and maybe it's not that great, and like that sort of stuff. And like we were a little
Go ahead, Trevor. Keep going.
I was gonna say we walked in and we were like, okay, let's hope this goes well, because you could easily see that particular subject like devolving quickly. But
Yeah.
like not only we made sure to keep ours positive, but also as soon as like we opened it up to the audience, everybody else dived in and was very like, this is a controversial thing, but not something that's just like this is bad.
Yeah.
Or I really
Yeah,
love this thing that I don't get the same support as this thing, and like it was great.
Yeah, it's not like
It turned into a really great discussion, and like you guys said, like there was just a lot of like love and fandom
Yeah.
through the whole like through line for the whole thing, which was just a great feeling.
and anybody who listens to us understands that despite the fact that we love Star Trek dearly, there's nothing we love more than ripping on Star Trek. And
Yeah, poking and prodding it.
Right, that's basically what that whole topic was about. For example, and this is just a small little spoiler, Matt, why don't you supply this audience with what your hot take was? Because
well,
let me also say it was surprisingly well received. Like the people who raised their hands in agreement was shocking, the ratio.
Yeah, seeing as it has been a long time getting from there to here, because that is the best Star Trek theme song, and I love it.
It's been a long time.
That was great.
From quantum.
So we have this episode, which you'll listen to now. Next week, you will be listening. The week of the 11th, I will say, will be the one shot that we did at DragonCon, followed by the following week of the 18th. Will be that hot takes panel, so you can get some hot takes from us and some rando people from DragonCon and their particular thoughts and processes. And then it is the following week, which will be Christmas week.
Yeah.
And that is when what happens?
We have a Christmas present for you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Brian?
Everyone.
On December 26th. So technically it's a Boxing Day present.
That's true. That's a good point. Good point, Brian.
Yeah.
Eel will be very excited.
Oh, yeah, I love Boxing Day.
On December 26th, we will start releasing the second half of season 3. Starting with what's the mission called again? The Mandate of Heaven.
Pretentious.
The Mandate of Heaven Part 1, which is the beginning of the second half of season 3. We will premiere on December 26th.
Exciting.
Yeah.
27th for non-patrons.
Yes, 27th for non-patrons. So if you need an excuse to become a patron, you get to have the brand new episode, a whole day early every time.
For Christmas.
But Tara, where would they go to gain such privileges?
They go to patreon.com/StarshipTempest.
Of course.
Well, that sounds so easy.
Also, I will say that if you are, so we have like different tiers of our patrons, and for the $5 and up tier, which is, what's that? Not ensign.
Lieutenant junior grade.
Lieutenant junior grade and above, anything $5 and above, you get Happy Mail from us every month. I send out a Happy Mail thing.
She's very generous when she says the word us.
It's from me. It's from me with all our names on it. Anyway, I send out some Happy Mail. Sometimes it's like it's from one of the characters. Sometimes it's something going on from some of us. Sometimes it's cool stickers or other little things. But this month we have a Starship Tempest holiday card that I got printed, and they're terrific. And so if you want one, jump in before, let's see, I'm going to send them out. I'll send them out before the 13th, probably. So when you're hearing this, you have a week, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. So when you're hearing this, you have a week to jump in to become a patron of Lieutenant Junior grade or above, to get one of our holiday cards as a little Patreon.
And even the ensign category, which is just what, like $1 a month,
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, that gets you onto the Discord.
Yeah, that you'll get access to our Discord, as well as I send out the emails to everyone that is a patron for the Maru sessions as well. The Discord is where we chit chat just with fans, as well as when we want to do things like a Q&A at one of our conventions. We almost always ping the Discord and be like, "What questions do you have that we will use to answer live?"
Totally.
And just try to do that way. So.
And you get the episode a day early. So
Yes, you do.
help keep us flying. That would be awesome.
All right, I think that does it for this episode. We've chatted a lot. It's been about an hour. I think
A good hour.
good hour, close to.
I was going to say, do we want to answer a couple of the other trivia questions that we didn't get to from the group? And if we say no at this point, it's a terrible, terrible setup on my part then.
Yeah. now we have to. You jerk.
Yeah, I probably have.
Well, I was just thinking, because we got a couple more minutes here and we weren't able to get through all of them, because another thing that was really cool about Starbase Indy, it was the very first time where, as far as we were aware, somebody that attended our Q&A panel was a fan of the show that we do not know personally. So they were in the audience and asked legitimate questions about the show that we hadn't prepared for, and we didn't know them. So it was really lovely to actually have.
And they were good questions too.
They were very good
They were
questions.
good
yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Check out the YouTube, our latest post on our YouTube channel, Starship Tempest, I'm presuming is the hashtag for our YouTube channel. We got to get better at YouTube, and we will, we promise. But in the meantime, it's up there, and they asked a really solid question, and that was just fun to have somebody who's appreciative of the show who we didn't know.
Yeah.
That was pretty great. Do you have it for me?
I am scrolling for days to try to find my things.
Well, let me ask real quick one of the questions to Matt and Brian, who weren't there. So one of the ones, which is the generic question that is always often asked by lots of people, but what is your favorite class of starship, and why? So,
Matt, you go first. Very dangerous.
Yeah, Matt's very dangerous. Honestly, it's the ship as in total or favorite Enterprise?
Nope, ship class.
Ship. Oh,
that's a tough question.
I don't know. It is hard. Like my favorite has always been the Constitution non-refit, the original.
Explain why.
I think it's the coolest looking one. I like it the best. I like the perfectly rounded cells. I like it. It's just always been my favorite ship. So.
Nice. And I was hoping you were going to say that because there are very few people that I have run into when answering that question say it's the original Constitution class. Everybody says it's the refit, but for you it was the Constitution, the original.
Yeah, I don't like the refit as much because the refit looks more industrial. The Constitution looks more. The non-refit looks more like retro sci-fi and artistic rather than industrial.
I gotcha.
Interesting.
You know. Because it looks like the refit, it looks like they tried to put more industrial design into like, hey, this is what this is, and this is what this particular thing does, and this is how it would be designed.
I gotcha.
In the real world versus the original Constitution was when they designed that, it was like, hey, this looks cool. Go. Right. You know?
It was 1960s future. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, it was I do think like the original Matt Jeffries Enterprise design is like part of the reason why it's a classic and will never be surpassed and is so iconic is because Jeffries himself was a plane guy and he was like an aviation enthusiast, and I think brought like a real sense of this is the mindset that goes into designing a machine that achieves a function, right? As opposed to just like, let me design a model spaceship for a TV show. Yeah. He was on some level actually designing a craft. And one well-known anecdote that goes along with that is like, science fiction, spaceships with just greeblies, like a Star Destroyer kind of greebly little texture on it is very popular. But Jeffries was like, no, yeah, like just the little texture that you would see on like a Star Destroyer that's like, you're just kind of throwing crap onto the surface.
Yeah, to add texture to it.
To add texture to it.
Yeah, it's like you take little pieces from other model kits and just stick them to stuff to make it look cool.
But Jeffries like had a very conscious sense of like, no, if it's an important piece of machinery, you're probably going to put it on the inside, unless there's a specific reason it needs to go on the outside. And so the only things that are on the outside are things that seem like they exist there because they have to for some physics or engineering reason. So yeah.
All right. So what's your favorite one then, Brian?
Well, so you and I have had this conversation plenty of times over the years.
Right. We don't have to mention it. You're right. Let's move on.
Brian likes the G.
Brian, go. We're not going down this rabbit hole right now.
So it's
what's your favorite?
Historically, it's been the Excelsior. There's something about the Excelsior that, like, at least in Search for Spock and Undiscovered Country, it just feels so. My nitpick or my gripe that I always go back to is when spaceship models don't feel big, like they don't feel like they have a sense of scale to them. Like these are supposed to be big sailing ship, giant things like in Alien or Star Wars are supposed to feel big. And there's just something about the Excelsior specifically in the original movies that it just feels really big, but also sleek and well designed. However, we've now been doing Tempest for a few years now. I've obviously looked at the Ambassador class a lot in that time, a lot more than previous years prior to that. I think the Ambassador might have superseded the Excelsior for me. Yeah.
That was my answer during the live event. Was the
Oh yeah. We
mean,
should see other people.
yeah, we should. I said how the Constitution class refit is my favorite historically, but I threw that aside because everybody says it. But how the ambassador blends it is a true example of lineage from Excelsior to Galaxy, and I just think they pull it off so well. But anyway, if you watch the YouTube, you'll get that answer.
The in-depth answers.
There's two more questions that specifically for Brian that which is why I wanted to go this route. One was from our top patron, our captain, or is it Admiral? Forgive me, Captain Janelle Davis. Wanted to know during the panel, she asked the question, or we pulled the question from the hat. What is your plan for Starship Tempest after the campaign, this first campaign, comes to a conclusion? And she asked that to us, and we honestly
You're like,
we're like, I gave some
the Brian question
about how I want to keep playing Brian, but it's really
Oh God, what plan?
yeah.
What plan?
What plan? No, I mean I like
or greater
totally
ambitions,
honest.
whatever comes to your mind.
Well, so when you say you want to keep playing, do you mean keep playing Tempest specifically, keep playing Star Trek, or keep just playing something in general?
Don't on my answer. Answer Janelle's question.
Yes? Yeah.
So like,
well, so I do, as I've said before in other venues, I do consider the Tempest campaign to be a closed story, and I have a specific I have specific ending scenario in mind. Obviously, how you guys play through it and resolve it depends on what you guys do, but
or ruin it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Or ruin it, or just shit all over it.
Yeah. That's what we do.
I do have a concluding scenario in mind. The actual conclusion will be up to all of us, but it is not an open-ended thing in the sense that we could just keep playing for 10 or 15 years and whatever.
That means he's gonna blow up the ship. That's the last episode.
You're gonna blow up the bloody
ship. You broke the ship. So that being said, I have considered, okay, what would the next campaign be? And I have a couple of things that we can talk about when we get there in the next 10 to 12 years. Assuming we all still have control of our bowels by then. But they would not be Star Trek.
Bold of you to assume that we have control of our bowels now.
Fair point.
That's true. That's very true. So yes, I have a couple of ideas for other campaigns that exist in other worlds, universes, other sandboxes.
Okay.
Fair enough. Okay.
Cool.
Last question that we didn't get to answer, but is directed specifically at Brian. How long does Brian spend preparing each mission?
Yeah. So this one, somebody put this into Discord, right?
Right.
And I was like,
we pulled it from the hat
during the panel. We were like,
and do you know do you want to know what I thought when I saw it in the Discord?
Well, can I read Matt's response on Discord real quick?
Sure.
0.68 seconds for a Brian that is nearly at eternity. Well done, Matthew.
Well played.
So the real thought I had when I saw that in the Discord, my honest to God thought was, oh, I'm glad I'm not going to Starbase Indy, so I don't have to actually answer that question.
It's been a long.
I honestly, I don't really know how to answer because there's a lot of so I'll show you guys because the audience can't see it, but there's my board and Travis is seated in person.
Yeah.
Go up to the big board.
The big board.
Of the campaign, and each note card is a mission. And so I did a whole lot of I don't want to say prep work, but big picture planning in the beginning. So I have all of these for the big mystery, the big story, I have various markers of okay, here's this and there's that and whatnot, and then there's space between them that can shift here and there, and then at the beginning of each season I will sit down, or I should before in the run up to starting a season, I will sit down and flesh out each individual mission for that season more deeply, and then some of them I have more of an idea of what they are going into that phase than others, depending on which one it is. I will try to do as much prep work. Of course, I'm a huge procrastinator, so I'm like, I never actually get it all done.
You intend to do a whole lot of prep work.
Yeah. And then so typically once we start recording, or we actually start recording the season, I will spend, I don't know, maybe 5, probably between 5 and 10 hours in the week running up to actually recording. What that all ends up to, like, I'm not keeping a timesheet of like, because I'm thinking
hundreds of hours at this point.
I mean, per mission I couldn't tell you. Hundreds of hours for sure, and it's like
thousands, millions.
And then it also like constitutes as like what qualifies as working on it, right? Because I made this whole big map. Like I took a fan-made map on the internet and I sort of recreated it and adjusted things for our campaign. Like I'll spend fucking hours on that, and that's not work. That's just me being a nerd.
That's not doing it.
And then I'll go for walks around the neighborhood at the end of the day, just to whatever, and I'll be thinking about whatever. And it's also the fact I have an ADHD brain, and so I'm constantly thinking about 3 to 4 things at any given moment of my life, anything. Right. And it's just like sometimes Tempest is one of those things, sometimes Tempest is 3 of those things. But
it's always at least one of them.
At least
usually, yeah.
So it's a pretty fluid answer.
Yeah. If I like in terms of like work and prep, I would say maybe between like 5 to 10 hours on a particular mission specifically. And again, but even that, it's like it's also variable, right? Because the ones that are mysteries, like the real like Agatha Christie style mysteries, like putting together a mystery is a lot more work than a dungeon crawl.
Right.
It's like for a quote unquote dungeon crawl scenario, you're like, okay, here's the layout. You got to get from point A to point B, and whatever is trying to stop you, blah blah blah. Right. But when it comes to like putting together a mystery like Sabotage on Station 7 or whatever else, you got to be like, when you're doing a mystery like that, you have to like come up with a whole mystery, and then you really have to try to solve it yourself to make sure that you're covering all the angles. Like what we were talking about at the beginning, where if something doesn't make sense, the player has to be like, oh well, that doesn't make sense because the GM has put it together that way on purpose. And so the last thing you want to be is like, oh fuck, I just fucked that up. Oh no.
Oh no.
And it doesn't make sense because you just didn't put things together right. So
that was 2 F-bombs in 0.68 seconds.
In a sentence.
It was a big question.
Sorry to our one patron who doesn't like it when we curse. But I am me, so I'm gonna curse.
All right.
Did you pull up any of the other questions, Tara?
No.
No. Okay.
I scrolled around looking for them, and I can't find any of them because
I have them all here, but we don't need to go through them right now. So I think that's probably
we can do an extra Tempest Talks.
Yes, indeed. I definitely wanted to try to cover the ones that were asked at the panel, and we did that. So,
perfect.
Yeah. So in 1 week's time, you will get our DragonCon one shot, followed by a week later with our hot takes, and then the back half of season 3.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yay.
It's a good finish.
And we got some fun stuff in the back half of season 3. That I think you guys are gonna have fun. That are you gonna do? Like I'm still really happy with the Mandate of Heaven. Like I just think it
came together
really cool. And then the one after that is super fun.
Yeah.
So the Mandate of Heaven is basically essentially the Bajoran resistance has come to the Federation and say, hey, we think we can kick the Cardassians off our planet, but only if Starfleet helps us.
So the Mandate of Heaven is, will DS9 ever exist? Stay tuned.
More or less. Actually, I don't think any of you guys caught it at the time, but I did put something like that in there in the sense of like in the briefing at the beginning, and so people should be able to hear this in the episode. I said something like, yeah, the Cardassians are planning to fortify their presence and build a space station in the system pretty soon. So they're going to start doing that pretty soon. So if we're gonna
It is.
do this
We'll
operation,
see.
anyway,
Yeah,
that was a
direct
DS9
Nor.
reference. Yeah. So anyway, the Tempest crew will have to escort some very high-ranking Federation officials behind enemy lines to decide whether or not the Federation is going to
That's-
liberate.
It's
the
a
planet
wild
of Asia
ride.
Or not.
It's
It
fun.
does not go where you think it's going to
Done.
go.
Yeah, it never does, right?
No, it doesn't.
It's the first and maybe last time Brian let me take control of one of the other NPCs.
That's also true. Yeah.
No, honestly, that is so awesome. Like, I can't wait for people to get to that moment because that
Indeed.
is
Cool.
such a
All
cool.
right, Travis, take us out.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh no.
So, thank you all for playing the Maru and putting up with me. Thanks to all of our patrons who also support Starship Tempest and all of its wackiness, but also then come on and allow me to run their brain through the ringer as well for my own Maru episodes. I hope you all enjoy the last couple things before the season starts back up again, and then I hope you enjoy it, but I'm pretty confident you will, because the back half of Season 3 is just an absolute smash hit, I think. So, hope you all enjoy it. Until next time, we'll see you out there.
We'll see you out there.
I'll see you later.
Bye.